Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Wookieecast. Today we're here with Marc Thompson, who has narrated a lot of Star Wars audiobooks. Thank you so much for sitting down with us today.
Oh yeah, thank you. I'm very excited to be here.
I'd love to get into a little bit of how you first got introduced to the Star Wars franchise.
Oh wow. I'm one of those kids. I was born in 75. So Star Wars is, I feel like, has always been a part of my life. Like, because like I was what, 2 when it came out. So I some of my earliest memories are playing with the action figures and then eventually kind of seeing the films on VHS tape or TBS for marathons and things like that. So I just feel like it's always been there, and it's hard for me to kind of nail down like my first encounter with it. I think one memorable one was I did get to see Empire in the theater, and I remember when the X-Wing like crashes into Dagobah and Luke's like, R2, R2, where are you? And I kind of screamed out in the theater, he's in the water. So like like and everyone's like, ha ha, so that's probably one of my earliest concrete memories, but it's just always been present in my life. So
Were you one of the kids that had all the toys and everything kind of in the house?
absolutely, yeah. Action figures. I even recently found a picture of myself with the old inflatable lightsaber that was like it was like on a flashlight, like a yellow tube. So I was like, oh my gosh. And now all of those are gone, and I would love to have some of those toys now, but they've all been passed on to other people.
And
So
some of the older stuff is actually worth a lot nowadays as
I
well. So,
know. I'm like,
yeah.
oh, why?
Um, did you ever read any Star Wars books before you got into narrating Star Wars audiobooks?
So it's a little embarrassing. Like I was not much of a reader growing up. I was kind of a let's rent the movie if I have to do a book report on something. But Star Wars was sort of an exception. Like when Heir to the Empire first came out, I was like, there was no Star Wars content. So I was like, oh my gosh, what happens after Return of the Jedi? So I ambitiously bought the book and I started reading it, but my laziness got the better of me and I never finished reading the book. And it wasn't until uh, 25 years later when they did, or the 20 years later when they did the anniversary edition, and I was asked to narrate that I actually got to finish that story and like, oh wow, this is what happens. So and now I genuinely enjoy reading, and but in my early years I was kind of a couch potato teen rotting away in front of the television and couldn't be made to read anything that I didn't have to read. So
Certainly one way to get through them all,
yeah.
just as a job.
Yeah, yeah.
How did you first get into audiobook narration professionally?
It was actually Star Wars. I had been doing a bunch of animation work. Like I do and still do like voices on like Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! And Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And so I kind of started voice acting through animation. And then my agent, called one day and said, have you ever done an audiobook? And again, I was trying to maybe get out of it because reading an entire book was like daunting. I was like, oh man. So I was like, not really. And then she's like, well, it was a Star Wars book. I thought you might be interested. And I was like, wait, hold on. Yes, yes, yes. Um, so yeah, so then it was The Legacy of the Force. And it was kind of it was going to be a 9-book series that was kind of delving into Han and Leia's kids and Luke and Mara's kids and kind of what happens, to them. And they wanted somebody to do all 9 of those books. So I auditioned for that, and I think I probably got the part because from my animation work and from other stuff, I would mimic things and I would try to kind of do a fair approximation of some of the characters that were in the films. And so I guess they liked that enough to hire me for that, but I'd never done an audiobook before that. So it was really like trial by fire and kind of being thrown into the deep end right away. So
And did you end up narrating several books in that series?
yeah, I did all 9 of those in Legacy of the Force. And then I continued on to another 9, which was The Fate of the Jedi. And then it's just kind of been doing books ever since then. That was, I believe, I want to say it was 2006. So I'm coming up on 20 years. Is it 20?
Yeah.
Yeah, 20 years soon. So, which is crazy. So,
Do you have any favorites of the ones that you've done? Any standouts? Because there's so
yeah.
many.
I mean, many, many, many. I think like, Heir to the Empire was pretty special. That came after Legacy of the Force and Fear of the Jedi, but I knew what a big deal that was because, of that kind of kicking off the expanded universe and getting to see Thrawn and kind of find out what happens after Return of the Jedi was a really big deal to me. Um, Dark Disciple was a favorite of mine just because you know that was the first book that I kind of like shed a tear while reading because I was like just between Quinlan and Asajj and their whole story and kind of it caught me off guard because I didn't see it coming and Christy Golden did a great job with that. Um, love the High Republic books. That probably is my all-time favorite just because the main way I connect to Star Wars is because of the Jedi and the Force. And the High Republic authors did this amazing thing where they kind of, talk about how each Jedi views the Force through almost like a different metaphor and like a different way that they understand the Force. And that was like enlightening and kind of mind blowing. And like it made so much sense, but it was so new. And it just, so I really, really love those books. And they've really meant a lot to me. Um, but I could list qualities of all of them like that. It really has become the favorite thing I get to do in my career is the Star Wars books just because I'm a diehard fan and there is something about like when you get to narrate the books you're spending 10, 12, sometimes 15 hours with these characters and which is way more than you would get in a movie or a TV show or so like you're really getting to know them, getting to know their inner thoughts, delving much deeper into some of the concepts that are in the Star Wars galaxy. So it's just, I really, really love it, and they're really awesome.
Out of the characters that you voiced, a lot of them have somewhat distinct voices, like Thrawn and Yoda all sort of have inflections.
Yeah.
What's your process for trying to mimic that and make it recognizable to readers?
Yeah. So YouTube is awesome. I will go to clips and I'll go to my, Disney Plus or whatever and kind of drill it and and kind of listen to kind of get it in my ear. Um, like Han, Luke, and Leia, I feel like I already had that kind of imprinted on me just from growing up with it. But some of the newer characters I've really kind of like I'll just kind of listen to clips on repeat and like when I'm walking my dog, I'll like read street signs in that character voice to see if I can keep it consistent and um so yeah, like a lot of repetition, a lot of just listening and just really trying to kind of, listening for obviously like is it a smooth voice is it like the Grand Admiral Thrawn, he's very soft spoken and smooth and Harassindula and he has like a very interesting cadence and so I'm trying to kind of emulate that and then some of it's like attitude like some of it is like I feel like whenever I'm doing Han it's just kind of that kind of tough guy swagger and like Chewie, get this thing, punch it. I'm just trying to try to kind of have adopt his mindset so much, and that even though the voice might not be perfect, that I feel like the mindset is getting me close to it, and trying to, the attitude of like that kind of that cockiness and that arrogance, or that swagger. So
Speaking of Han and Chewie, how's the Wookiee sound effects?
I always feel weird. Yeah, it's like I was like they're the first couple of times I was asked to do it, I was like, well, they're just gonna use the sound library, right? You're like, no, you give it a go. I was like, all right. So it's like kind of like gargling and yawning at the same time. So
You've gotten it down to a science at this point. So,
Yeah, yeah.
um, so often for existing characters, there is an established voice, but sometimes there's a main character in a book that doesn't have a voice. Maybe they're described to have a rough or smooth voice in the text, but
Yeah.
they otherwise don't have anything. So, what's your process for kind of choosing a voice for a character?
Yeah. So I'm I'm paying very close attention to what the author says. So if there's any clues about like, he said gruffly or, with a melodious voice, he said, or sometimes like, another character might say something about a particular character, like that guy gives me the creeps, or any of those clues, I'm latching onto that and trying to come up with clues. And then another thing I do, and I'm not just saying this because you're interviewing me, but I go to Wookieepedia. And I love that you guys have like for the characters and the species of alien, you'll have like if you can find it like a picture of them. So if they appeared in a comic book or a Clone Wars episode, or if they were a background character in the cantina, you'll have an image of that. So a lot of times I'm kind of drawing inspiration from those images and like, oh, this guy's got a lot of teeth, so maybe I'll try to make them sound like they've got fangs, or they've got a really small mouth, so I might try to make my mouth super small when I'm talking like that character, or whatever. And then you also list anytime they appear. So if they did happen to appear in an episode of something, I can go to that episode and watch it and see, okay, what did that actor do? Did they give them any particular accent or any particular cadence, or was there any kind of filter on that or whatever? And so I'm kind of drawing inspiration from that. And again, you also list just attributes of those characters or that species. Like they're known for being hyper intelligent, or they're known for being warrior like, or so all that stuff is fuel for the creative fire and trying to figure out, okay, what can I come up with here? And then sometimes it is just a matter of the lead character in this book has this particular voice, so if they're going to be talking a lot with this other character, I do want to pick some qualities that'll make it different. So when they're listening, they can tell them apart. So sometimes it's more a creative treasure hunt, and other times it's like, okay, I've got a low voice, I need a high voice now. So
That
so
makes
it's
a
a
lot of
mixture of
sense.
all those things. So.
Just out of curiosity, when there's like a hologram or something, how do you get that static effect? Is it added afterward? Because
Yeah,
it's like a post effect, I guess.
yeah. Like that's I suppose we could like, talk into a cup or something, but the Kevin Thompson, who's no relation, but he spells Thompson differently, but he's a brilliant director and has worked on these books for decades, and he has a huge library of music and sound effects, and between him and his partner Paul Goodrich, who does a lot of the sound engineering, they, they've got it down to it's an art and a science, and they've got all kinds of little shorthand things like do sound effect A24 whatever, like they probably not that designation, but they've got it down to where they can just kind of say do just a shorthand with each other, do that thing, and then they know what to do. And because it really is so immersive, it really feels like a movie in your mind when you're listening to those. And so that's all them. I just have to do the acting part, but they build out that whole world with all that stuff, and it really helps a lot.
How long would you say it generally takes you to record a book, like a normal sized adult book?
Typically it's about 5 days, and we're going from like 10 in the morning till 5 at night. So, and they let you out for food and bathroom, but it's a lot of reading. So,
Speaking about immersive, you've also done some work on the audio dramas that have come out,
yeah,
Duke of Jedi Lost and the High Republic ones. How would you say that's different from audiobook narrating? Because you're kind of focused on specific characters rather than all of it.
yeah, um, yeah. It's maybe a little bit more like my animation work because you're just focusing on one character at a time, um, and you're kind of, if you're lucky enough, like when we did Dooku Jedi Lost, we got to record that as a group, and like we got to kind of be in a group with the 5 or 6 actors at a time in a semicircle, and you could kind of, make eye contact with your scene partner and actually interact with them. And so that was such a joy. And that like enhances the performances, and you can really allow how they're delivering their lines to affect how you're going to deliver your lines. um, Post pandemic, my experience at least has been that we've done most of those over Zoom, and I've had like every once in a while I got like when we did one of the her public audio dramas, I got to work with Jessica over Zoom, and we would kind of do the scenes that way, which is still helpful. It's not as cool as being in person, but it was still helpful. So being able to work off your partner is great, and then it feels like when you're doing the audio dramas, you can spend a little bit more time and thought and energy into your specifically just your individual character. Whereas when you're doing an entire audiobook, you have more of a bird's eye perspective, and you're kind of having to tell the entire story. You have a little bit more control, which is interesting because, I can decide how my scene partner is going to say something, so I have a little bit more control over how the whole overall story is going to be told. But there's a pace that you have to move at that is a little bit quicker, and you can't, Kevin, my director, will often say we can't be precious about everything when you're doing the entire story, because there's a part of me that wants to do like 8 or 9 takes for every single line or scene because I want to get it right. And when you're doing a 400-page book, you have to kind of keep moving at a pace, because otherwise you lose the momentum of the storytelling. Whereas like when you're doing the audio drama, I'm just focused on my lines, so we have a little bit more time to kind of massage it and nuance it. But um, you're just focused on that scene. Where if I'm telling the whole story, I've got to keep the through line going. And if I do like 8 takes on this one line, I kind of will start to lose the context of what came immediately before that. So like maybe I'll start to lose the urgency of the scene, or I'll start to forget emotionally what happened right before this, because I'm 8 takes in now, and I lost track of that. So you want to kind of have enough momentum so that that through line can be consistent and carried throughout. I hope that makes sense. I feel like I'm rambling.
That
So.
makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Although I can imagine there's plenty of bloopers when you're doing these, trying to pronounce
Oh
something
yeah,
that's crazy hard and then you just like
yeah,
completely.
yeah. Somewhere there exists an audio file of me trying to say Kilorio Vuwandualan about 25 times, and I just could not get it, and I was pulling my hair out. I was like, oh, so.
Um, the most recent audiobook you have out is Trials of the Jedi by Charles Soule. I'd love if you could say one of your favorite things about that, since it should be fresher in your memory.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh man, I loved it. Like it feels like a really epic conclusion. Like I know there's still comics that are still being released, and there's other the phase is not totally wrapped up yet, but it did a really nice job of bringing all these storylines together. It was again very, very moving. I think like he really swung for the fences in terms of what he does. Like I'm trying to dance around it because I don't want to spoil it for anybody that might read it. But like the way that he wraps up the Nameless storyline was so surprising and so Jedi-like, and like it was shocking and mind-blowing, and like not what I expected, and it was amazing. I mean, Bell's confrontation, Bell has a confrontation with Marchion Ro that was so moving, and kind of got a little misty-eyed in that one, and like and super inspiring. And then Avar and Elzar just have this amazing, amazing thing that happens to them. I just, it's
Yeah.
just it's awesome. It's epic. It's got heart. It's got humor. It's everything you would want in a story, and it was incredibly satisfying. And it is a little bit sad because I guess this initiative is coming to an end, but it leaves you wanting more stories and more High Republic, and you know, so he's amazing, and I really really love that book. So
And you have two more Star Wars audiobooks coming out this year to be excited for. I think
yes,
it's
I did.
two.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm
couple
assuming since I'm allowed to say.
they've been announced, yeah.
Okay, good. All
But
right.
the pages are up and they have your name on them on
Okay,
Amazon.
great.
So,
Yeah, yeah.
um, but yeah, one trivia question for you from our audience that asked me to submit. If you could have one Wikipedia page completed, what would it be? Because so many of them are, not quite there.
Right, right, right. Oh, that's interesting. Hmm. I don't know. Like I feel like I'd have to kind of look at them and see which ones are incomplete. I mean, I don't know. I've heard it. I've heard from interviews that George deliberately did not want Yoda for the audience to know too much about Yoda because he liked the idea of it being this mystery. But I'm craving to know what's his home planet, like where what is the deal with his species? How come we see so few of them? It's like Yoda and Yaddle. Like, where's everybody else? So I would love some more entries on Yoda's page. Um, and then yeah, I mean, I'd have to look more deeply at other ones to kind of know more, like which parts have gaps.
Which is
But
pretty
that
much
would
all of
be
them.
yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah,
exactly, yeah.
there's
And I
too
mean,
much stuff
I'd
coming
love
out,
to know
so
more about like the ancient civilizations, like like the temples on Yavin 4 or in the Jedi Fallen Order games. Like I want to know more about those, like the Zepho and all these other culture, like. But I guess that's the beauty of Star Wars is that you can there's always more to discover, and then that'll lead to more questions, and so.
and sometimes planets can appear in a book and then like Outlaws, it had Akiva in it, which originated from Aftermath, and so it all
Oh
kind
wow,
of
yeah. Oh,
yeah.
that's cool.
Um, so yeah. If people would like to keep up with you and your work on social media, what platforms can they find you on?
I'm on pretty much everything. I keep in my Instagram the most up to date, and that one is Captain Ehud underscore Marc Thompson underscore VO. And I apologize for the overly complicated handle, but I'm too cheap to pay for the verification, and so I just had to kind of keep it that way. And then I'm like Marc Thompson on Facebook, on X, I'm Captain Ehud, and I don't remember what I am on Blue Sky, but I'm on all those little things. So
It was a pleasure talking to you. Wikipedia appreciates all you do, and I'm so grateful that you use us. It's always nice to hear.
oh yeah,
Um,
big time. I'm very grateful for what you guys do. So thank you for all your hard work because I don't know that I could do it without that reference is a huge asset. So thank you.
and looking forward to your two audiobooks later this year. Um, so soon? Sanctuary is soon, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like I recorded. I think yeah, I recorded Bad Batch Sanctuary. So I'm actually going in for fixes for that next week. I don't know when that releases, but it'll be soon. And then there's another one. I'm not sure from what I'm
Master of
saying.
Evil.
Okay,
It
you
was
said it.
announced at Celebration.
So yeah. Okay, great. So then yes, I am narrating that, and I have not read that one yet, but I'm going to be prepping that one very soon. So probably we'll be going to Wikipedia again very soon.
Right. Thank you so much.